Hello friends, this is Dr. KV Singh and today I'll be demonstrating you a case of aqueous misdirection, how it was recognized and how it was managed. This was a 77-year-old male with a history of diabetes mellitus and hypertension. He was single-eyed, other eye was already lost due to RVO, and this was a routine case. I planned phacoemulsification under topical anesthesia. Pre-operatively, I did not see any hint of any zonular weakness or laxity, so topical anesthesia was good enough for him, and most of the time I plan my surgeries under topical anesthesia. And in case there is no additional clinical issues like very hard cataract or zonular weakness, even for single-eyed cases, I like to do my surgery under topical anesthesia only. And this particular case actually aqueous misdirection happens, and what main problem with aqueous misdirection is that we tend to recognize it very late, and till the time when we recognize it, most of the time complication has already started to happen. It's really very difficult to come back from that. So one of the most important key factor in managing such case is to recognize it early and take appropriate step to avoid any kind of complication that can ensue. Aqueous misdirection and its complication are so severe and so bad that it quite frequently leads to loss of vision. Many colleagues have that particular problem, and that's not because they lack any skill or any experience, but because most of the time what happens that when we recognize it, it's already too late. By this time, I already completed the nucleus disassembly, which was pretty routine. I did not have any hint of any zonal laxity, and so I filled up my AC with visco and started doing my irrigation and aspiration for cortex removal. And during cortex removal, when I was doing it, when I started it, there was hint of some shallowness of the AC, which was not out of ordinary. So I continued with the case, and because it was a bit shallow, it was a single-eyed case. So what I did when I changed my hand from right to left, then I filled the AC again with visco. Now this time, I felt that AC is more shallower than what my comfort level would otherwise say. And but I went ahead. As I already said, kids, it's not always possible for us to recognize aqueous misdirection early on, and so it was not possible. So but I continued. Literally at this point of time, I was scraping the posterior capsule while removing the cortex. Even then I continued, and I just tried to do some polish of the posterior capsule. Now while I was filling the AC really became flat. So I planned that I would fill the AC with visco. I'll try to form AC as much as possible, and I'll just implant my IOL in the bag and constrict the pupil and using pylo. And in case later on post-operatively, if I find that AC is not formed, then I would give some Menintol and manage it that way. But so in such cases, because the AC is already bad, I did not want any mal-loaded IOL, so I do the loading myself. Otherwise, I let my assistant do it. And I also thought that visco might be leaking from the side ports at times because of the flaying of the window, because of the IA cannula. That can happen. So I hydrated that as well, and I refilled the AC with visco, and I then try to implant the IOL in the bag. But literally, the posterior capsule was dome shaped and almost touching the on the posterior surface of the cornea, that is endothelium. So it was very difficult for me to implant the IOL in the bag. So I thought that I'll implant in the AC, and I'll maneuver both the haptics in the bag, and then I will just constrict the pupil and wash the AC with the hydrocannula and close the case. And but literally what happened, that the AC was flat at this time. Now the IOP has also risen, the eyeball was tight. Patient at generally what happens that in this particular scenario, patient at this point of time, when the pressure of the eye really increases, patients start squeezing their eye. Iris starts to pop out from the corneal incisions, and that leads to the cascades of events, and that leads to generally all the problems that we have in aqueous misdirection. As you can see, I've been trying to maneuver the haptic from all the ports wherever it is possible, from left side, from right side, from the main port. But literally the IOL was plastered behind the cornea, and I did not have any space. So I was just running out of options. And this time I had this thing in my mind that this might be a case of aqueous misdirection. I checked the IOP. Patient was very cooperative, I would say. In spite of being under topical anesthesia, he was not causing a lot of trouble. And but patient can cause problems in such stages, and it's not their fault. Now you can also see their iris was also hinting to come out, and I now knew that it's a case of aqueous misdirection, and I have to manage it accordingly. Even at this stage, as my last ditch effort, I thought that I'll take a iris repositor and press down the iris inside IOL inside the bag. But that effort was futile. As you can see that the IOL was not ready to go inside the bag because the bag was really ballooned up. So now I thought that what would be required in this particular case is anterior vitrectomy, and because unless until I relieve the anterior vitreous with any trapped fluid, this AC will not form, and that can lead to a lot of problems like endothelial damage and iris damage. And this was a single light case, so I had only few options left. So in such cases, there are few things that are generally employed by the anterior segment surgeon. Most of the time people do 26 gauge needle pars plana vitreous tap, which according to me is not a very good option because it causes traction on vitreous and sudden hypotony, which can lead to suprachoroidal hemorrhage or effusion, retinal detachment, etc. Second option that anterior segment surgeon has is a 26 gauge MVR entry from the pars plana and do a vitrectomy through that port. It's a good option. One thing you just need to make sure that you don't let the hypotony happen, because that hypotony leads to all the problem later on. Third option, in case it is possible, then we should take help of retina people, retina colleagues, which can do anterior vitrectomy using a trocar cannula, which can be 23 or 25 gauge. So because a single light case and the help was available, so I asked for it, and the retina surgeon, Dr. Karthike, gracefully obliged in that. Now, if you see, when this 23 gauge port is made supra in the 11 o'clock position, you can see a gush of fluid coming out, which is indicated by the arrow here, and that relieved the aqueous pressure from behind, and that at times leads to hypotony, and that can cause suprachoroidal hemorrhage and further complication. So we have to be very clear that we don't go inside and do a blind dry vitrectomy. We must first introduce irrigation cannula in the AC and make the IOP equal, and then we introduce the vitrectomy and do anterior vitrectomy probe and do anterior vitrectomy. Here, as soon as this particular maneuver was done, AC was formed nicely. I became pretty okay. The IOP was normal, and from now onwards, the case was pretty much under control. All these steps are now being performed by the retina surgeon, and he really performed them well. No further complication, according to me, can happen now because AC is nicely formed, and the endothelium was also not damaged. There was no damage to iris. Simply the anterior vitrectomy done, and the IOL was slid inside the bag, and things were concluded after this. So now we see that the outcome in this particular case was positive. There was not much damage. Patient was okay. Things were pretty much in control. So side ports were hydrated, and the case was concluded after that. I did do patching for 2 hours, though it was a topical case. Patient had good eye movement, but I did do patching so that patient becomes relieved. So what are the messages that we can take from this particular case? First and foremost, recognize early in case of aqueous misdirection. It's only when we recognize it late then the cascade of event happens, and it's very difficult to come back from them. And do anterior vitrectomy. It's not prudent to do 26 gauge needle vitreous tap, and in case you are not confident, please take help of your retina colleague or a senior surgeon. When all these steps are taken at right time, so generally that leads to good outcome of such events, and patient generally don't have any complication. So in case you like the video, please do let me know. Please any suggestion, any further advice you have, please forward it through comments. Thank you for watching.